In the early 1970s, two young boys from Seattle, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, were obsessed with computers at a time when very few people even knew what a computer was. Computers were giant machines found only in universities and research labs, but Gates and Allen spent countless hours studying them, programming them, and imagining a future where computers would be small enough for everyone to own. Their big opportunity came in 1975 when they saw the cover of Popular Electronics magazine, which featured the Altair 8800, one of the world's first personal microcomputers. Gates and Allen instantly recognized this as the beginning of a new era. They contacted the makers of the Altair and boldly claimed they had written a version of the basic programming language that could run on it, even though they hadn't written a single line of code yet. For weeks, they worked day and night, pushing themselves to the limit. Paul Allen finally flew to Albuquerque to demonstrate their program. To their relief, it worked perfectly. The makers of Altair were impressed, and Gates and Allen secured their very first deal. This moment gave birth to a company they called Microsoft, short for Microcomputer Software. The hyphen was later dropped, and it became the Microsoft we know today. At first, Microsoft was nothing more than two passionate young men working in a small office with almost no money, but they had vision. They believed that one day, computers would become an essential tool in every home and office. That belief, combined with their determination, set the stage for a company that would one day change the world of technology forever. By the early 1980s, Microsoft was still a small software company with big dreams. Bill Gates and Paul Allen had built a reputation by creating programming languages, but they were waiting for the one golden opportunity that could launch them into the big leagues. That opportunity came in 1980 when IBM, the world's largest computer company, decided to enter the personal computer market. IBM needed an operating system (OS) software that allows a computer to communicate with its hardware and run programs. They first approached another small company called Digital Research, but negotiations failed. IBM then turned to Microsoft. Bill Gates saw this as the chance of a lifetime, but there was one problem: Microsoft didn't actually have an operating system to sell. Instead of admitting defeat, Gates took a bold step. Microsoft quietly purchased an existing system called QDOS, Quick and Dirty Operating System, from a programmer named Tim Patterson for around $50,000. The team at Microsoft quickly modified and improved it, rebranded it as MS-DOS, Microsoft Disk Operating System, and licensed it to IBM. But Gates made a decision that would change the future of Microsoft forever. Instead of selling MS-DOS outright to IBM, he licensed it. This meant Microsoft kept the rights to the software and could sell it to other computer manufacturers as well. Soon, almost every IBM-compatible PC in the world was running MS-DOS, and Microsoft earned money from every copy. Through this single smart deal, Microsoft became the standard bearer of personal computing. By the mid-1980s, MS-DOS was everywhere. Bill Gates's vision of a computer on every desk and in every home was no longer a dream, it was becoming reality. This breakthrough not only made Microsoft rich, it gave the company the power and influence it needed to shape the future of technology for decades to come. By the mid-1980s, Microsoft had already made a name for itself with MS-DOS, but Bill Gates knew that the future of computing would not be based on text-only commands. People wanted computers that were easier to use, machines that anyone, not just programmers, could operate. The answer was a graphical user interface (GUI), where users could click on icons and use a mouse instead of memorizing complicated commands. In 1985, Microsoft introduced its bold new product, Windows 1.0. At first, it was more of an experiment than a revolution. The graphics were simple, the performance was slow, and many critics dismissed it. But Gates and his team did not give up. They kept improving it, learning from competitors like Apple's Macintosh, which had shown the world what a user-friendly computer could look like. Then came the big break, Windows 3.0 in 1990. This version was faster, more powerful, and came with colorful icons, menus, and multitasking features. It was a massive hit, selling millions of copies. Suddenly, computers were no longer just for offices and scientists, they were becoming household machines. But the real game changer arrived in 1995 with the launch of Windows 95. Microsoft invested heavily in marketing, creating a cultural moment. People lined up outside stores at midnight to buy it, and the launch became one of the biggest product releases in history. Windows 95 came with built-in support for the Internet, plug-and-play hardware, and a sleek interface that defined personal computing for years to come. Alongside Windows, Microsoft introduced Microsoft Office, a bundle of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. This software became the standard in businesses, schools, and homes worldwide. By the late 1990s, Windows and Office dominated the computer market, and no competitor could come close. For Bill Gates, this was the dream realized. Microsoft had gone from a tiny startup in Albuquerque to the undisputed leader of the software world. Gates himself became the richest man on earth, a symbol of the digital age. The Windows era not only made Microsoft powerful, but it also shaped the way billions of people interacted with computers, creating habits, icons, and software that still influence technology today. By the late 1990s, Microsoft was at the peak of its power. Windows was installed on almost every personal computer in the world, and Microsoft Office was the standard for productivity. Bill Gates had become the richest man alive, and the company seemed unstoppable. But with great success came great challenges. One of the biggest blows came in the form of antitrust lawsuits. Governments in the United States and Europe accused Microsoft of using its dominance to crush competitors. The most famous case involved Microsoft bundling its Internet Explorer browser with Windows, making it harder for other browsers like Netscape to survive. After long legal battles, Microsoft was found guilty of anti-competitive practices. Though the company avoided being broken apart, the lawsuits damaged its reputation and forced it to be more cautious. Meanwhile, the tech world was changing rapidly. In 2000, Bill Gates stepped down as CEO and handed over leadership to his longtime friend and colleague, Steve Ballmer. Gates shifted his focus to philanthropy, while Ballmer tried to keep Microsoft strong in a new digital era. But the company began to miss opportunities. In search engines, Google quickly rose and left Microsoft's Bing struggling to catch up. In mobile phones, Apple's iPhone and Google's Android dominated, while Microsoft's Windows Phone never gained traction and eventually failed. Even in music, Microsoft tried to compete with Apple's iPod by releasing the Zune, but it flopped. Yet, it wasn't all losses. Microsoft found success in other areas. The Xbox, launched in 2001, became a major player in the gaming world and built a loyal community of players. Microsoft also developed enterprise products like Windows Server, SQL databases, and most importantly, Azure, a cloud computing service that quietly began growing in the background. The 2000s were a decade of mixed fortunes for Microsoft. The company was still massively profitable, but it seemed to be struggling to innovate in a world that was rapidly moving toward the internet, mobile devices, and new digital experiences. Many critics even claimed that Microsoft had lost its spark and was becoming a dinosaur of the tech world. But what no one knew was that a new leader was about to take the company in a completely different direction, a move that would reinvent Microsoft and restore its place at the top. By the early 2010s, Microsoft was still powerful but had lost its shine. Competitors like Apple, Google, and Amazon were shaping the future with smartphones, search engines, and cloud computing, while Microsoft seemed stuck in the past. Its biggest successes, Windows and Office, were no longer enough to dominate the rapidly changing tech world. The company needed a fresh vision, and in 2014, that moment arrived when Satya Nadella became the new CEO. Nadella brought with him a very different leadership style. Instead of relying only on Windows, he focused on the cloud, artificial intelligence, and collaboration. Under his leadership, Microsoft Azure became one of the world's largest cloud platforms, competing directly with Amazon Web Services (AWS). This shift gave Microsoft a new identity, not just a software company, but a cloud-first, AI-driven giant. At the same time, Nadella embraced openness. Instead of fighting rivals, Microsoft started working with them. For example, it released Office apps for iOS and Android, supported Linux on its cloud platform, and even acquired GitHub in 2018, winning the trust of millions of developers. Microsoft also made bold acquisitions to strengthen its future. LinkedIn 2016, becoming the leader in professional networking. GitHub 2018, securing influence over the global developer community. Activision Blizzard 2023 boosting its position in gaming. Meanwhile, the company continued to grow in gaming with Xbox and productivity software with Microsoft Teams, which became essential during the COVID-19 pandemic. And with advancements in artificial intelligence, Microsoft positioned itself at the center of the next big tech revolution by partnering with OpenAI to bring AI tools into everyday products like Word, Excel, and Outlook. Thanks to this transformation, Microsoft regained its reputation as an innovative powerhouse. Its market value soared, once again making it one of the most valuable companies in the world, alongside Apple, Google, and Amazon. From a tiny startup in Albuquerque to a global leader in technology, Microsoft's story is one of vision, resilience, and reinvention. Bill Gates and Paul Allen had dreamed of putting a computer on every desk and in every home. Under Satya Nadella, that dream has evolved into something even bigger: technology that connects the entire world through the cloud, AI, and digital innovation.